Welcome back to another exciting game. This is me playing a game against an international master on chess.com. It was a daily game. Okay, not a blitz game, not a bullet game, okay, where I could possibly fluke a win. Okay, it was a daily game, okay, where both players had time to think about their moves, check out all the tactics, lots of time. Okay, so if there's a win there, it's not a fluke, or I'd like to not think so anyway. Okay, so let's kick off. D4. I'm white here. The international master is black. Knight f6, knight f3, g6, bishop f4. I don't play the London system. It's just how it's transpiring at the moment. So a kind of Grunfeld. Okay, so bishop f4, Grunfeld. I think e3, c5 tends to happen. Is it c5? Yep. Okay. Very dry, very slow. Okay, bishop d3. Not sure whether it's theory or not. Okay, I'm just saddled with the isolated queen's pawn here. Okay, h3, right. Okay, so castling. Okay, against the IQP, castling, and then after this pin, there's a lot of pressure on this d4 pawn, and then I wouldn't really want to go back with the bishop just to defend this pawn here. And also, if I take with the queen here, and then I'm losing the pawn, so I've got to ruin my pawn structure just to save this pawn. And even then, there's still lots of pressure. 1, 2, 3 pieces attacking this, and then the knight's looking even more passive. Not a great position. Okay, so by playing h3, just kind of prevents that. Bishop f5. Castles away. Rook c8. Okay, so there's an X-ray on the bishop on c4. Okay, rook there. Yeah, okay, so yes, I mean, my style nowadays would have been to be like a3, knight here, here, probably defend here, and quite possibly I would have tried to kick the knight out somehow. No, he's not going to persist with that, is he? Not sure. Hopefully I can kick that knight away. Anyway, yeah, so by playing rook c1, yeah, I think it's more Karpovian to play pawn to a3. Anyway, okay, we'll have to make do. The bishop has to come back, challenging the bishop on f5, but it does leave the square on c4 a little weak. Takes, knight there. Okay, so what can we say about this position? So black's done very well. He's trying to exchange off all the pieces, so the pawn on d4 becomes very weak. And he's got a great position to do that because there's the bishop on g7 looking at it as well. Okay, so knight d5, very good, blockading everything. Obviously, he knows what he's doing, which is more than what I could say about myself. Okay, bishop g5. I don't think I had any issues just pinning the pawn to e7. If he plays h6, that's great. Sort of weaken his squares a little bit around his king, and f6 would be ideal. So he decides to take here, and I took back with the pawn. Now, very interesting. Yeah, I suppose when you're playing against the IQP, you want to initiate exchanges, but this is a bit of an odd move because that means I can play b takes c3. And that means, yes, I will have hanging pawns, a backward pawn on c3, but at least the d4 pawn will be secure. Okay. Okay. Queen there. Okay. Yeah, understandable. If he just plays a nothing move, queen b5. sort of stops the queen from coming to d7, sort of just looks at these weak squares, especially the pawn on b7, so that makes a lot of sense. So queen d7, preventing all that. Okay. My queen's a little bit weak. The square on c4 is a little weak. So here, I think with all my notes, my problem is the c4 square. So I either play knight d2, which is kind of retreating the knight. I'm going backwards and defending, but hopefully I can defend to go forwards. But instead of just moving the knight, because I don't know where it really wants to go, it's doing a good job defending that pawn on d4 anyway. Okay, so I would have played c4 instead. Oh, I did do that. Okay, c4, yeah. e6, and then rook c2, rook c2 or rook d1. Not too sure. Can I play d5 even? d5. d5. Okay, so lots of active possibilities. And what did I play? Okay, looks natural. Right, okay. Looking at that pawn there on c4. Knight d2 looks logical. Knight d2. Can I get away with c5 even? c5, I don't really like it. It just sort of gives away that square on d5. If the knight on a5 lands there, then I think it's black for choice here. So can I play d5 anyway? Well, that's quite interesting, actually, looking at it. Yeah, I should have played something like just to, let's have a little look at this line, and then d6. Takes, and I think my idea would be to push this forwards. Yeah, capturing the pawn on a2 isn't bad, but it just sort of slows things down. Is he still okay to play that? Can he do that? Well, I'm not too sure. Okay, so taking pawns, it does come with certain risks, so you've got to be careful. Okay, so let's just go back. So that was one idea that I overlooked. Knight d2 sort of makes sense, just a little bit passive. So yeah, very interesting. d5, okay, doesn't have to play that. Oh, I was thinking of rook d8 there. So can he push the pawn, the bishop away? Ah, well, this is very interesting. You know, I'll be losing a pawn on c4, but what do I get back? The possibility of pushing this pawn to d7. So that's the power of having the hanging pawns and the isolated queen's pawn. Okay, so I didn't go for the more complicated, dynamic continuation. I just played very passively. And this is something that you can add into your notes. Try not to play passively. Easier said than done, especially when you're worried facing an IM or even a weaker person. Okay, all daunting prospects. It looks like I've defended everything. Yeah, f4, not f4. Far too weakening, far too weakening. If anything here, gosh, I'm wondering whether I could play knight b3, and if knight takes c4, knight c5. No, maybe that doesn't quite work. Anyway, but definitely not f4. It's just far too weakening. It exposes this diagonal, and the bishop on g7 quietly lurking, still keeping an eye on the d4 pawn. So black decides to mount more pressure on it with knight c6. Okay, just regrouping. d5 help. d5, knight b4, something like that. Or pawn takes, pawn takes. Yeah, just very complicated. What did I play? Yeah, trying to initiate exchanges. the ideal situation is to fix my pawns a little bit. This was the aim. Who was very good at this? Was it Capablanca? I think it was Capablanca. Yes, he was good at seeing moves like this. Okay, so I'm also looking at the weak pawn on b7, queen a6. Yeah, he doesn't want the queen exchange, but the pawn on the queen on a6 doesn't look great neither. But it does defend the pawn, keeps the pieces on. So you should get some credit for that. Okay, so knight f3, defending the pawn on d4, but then out comes knight a5, attacking the c4 pawn. Then I'll be losing a pawn possibly. So I'm thinking, well, I'm probably going to lose this pawn on d4. Everything's a bit weak. I'm starting to get into a more passive situation. Let's seek out for some counterplay. Yeah, it's probably not the best idea. Looking at it now with fresh eyes, maybe playing something berserk like d5 just to do something, anything. Yeah, even queen b5, looking at it, it's quite interesting. Initiating more exchanges, and if the queen moves or takes this pawn on a2 here, got a little bit of play. It's not a lot. It's not that great. I don't really want to take that, but that might be the possibility. No, I've got a fork on e2. Yeah, it's just, yeah, black's a lot better. It's got the initiative now, and I don't help myself by playing weakening moves. Okay, so he goes back here. Yep. Surely queen b5. No. Right, okay. Just continually defending here. Even after here, just disrupting his pawns here. What happens if he takes? Attacking the knights, but I don't know. I'm ceding the c file. Maybe to gain some space here. And then I've got something to play with at least. Yeah, maybe I've got some ideas. Not too sure. Yeah, doesn't look that great because knight c4, rook takes knight c4, attacking everything. Yeah, just doesn't look good. Maybe it won't work. Yeah, there's this huge pin. Yeah, it's just not looking very good. Knight takes c4. Let's go back. Queen d3, trying to defend. Finally nabs a pawn, takes, yeah. Yeah, something that I missed, which was rook takes b7. Yes, rook takes b7 because what's defending this rook on c4? It's just the queen, so it's overloading the queen. So it takes queen takes a2, and then I've got a little bit of play. Just a teeny tiny bit. Can I survive? Wow, look at this. It's only a possibility. Something like this, lots of play going on. Yeah, I think this is probably a good idea. Threatening checkmate. Yeah, just a lot of possibilities there. Yeah, so my tactical eye back in when was this played? 2019. Yeah, it's not what it is right now. Although it wouldn't surprise me if I didn't see that. Anyway, okay, so b5, protecting the rook on c4, and then getting the pawns rolling. rook d5. I really like this move, just preventing pawn to d5, liberating my position. Not that he needed to do that. There were alternatives, but I liked how he did it anyway. It was a great style of play. f5, just trying to do something. Takes, yeah, takes. Yeah, just losing a bunch of pawns. Queen takes. Yeah, got to keep the queens on. Yeah. More pieces exchanged. Hoping to exchange even more pieces. Yeah, can't take the pawn on b5 because the bishop is on pre. Tack, tack. Yeah, yeah, his position's too solid and he's up. 2 pawns. It's completely winning. So I resigned. So even average players can't always beat IMs. So let's see whether I fare better next time. Okay, please like, share, subscribe. Hopefully you learned something, and I'll see you in the next video. Okay, bye-bye.